On the day of your awakening, one fart somehow produced a decade driver. Not only could you really transform into Kamen Rider Decade, you could freely switch between every rider form from the Showa, Heisei, and Reiwa. Just when you thought your badass life was about to begin, the entire school laughed at you like you were an idiot. Because in this world, Decade was rated as having neither stats nor special mechanics, a trash D-rank rider barely above common grunts. Wait, the Decade you're talking about ... is he even the same Decade I know? Then Lin Wanqing, who had awakened Gatek, the class beauty, who was now dumping you, left you even more confused. Wait, who are you calling babe? Were we ever even together? Right as the farce was unfolding, the teacher hosting the ceremony suddenly transformed into a worm. The entire venue fell silent for 1 second. Then deafening screams erupted. A monster, it's a monster. How is there one in the awakening exam hall? Call the military, call the riders. The crowd surged for the exits. Shoving and screaming dissolved into chaos, but the worm ignored the fleeing crowd. Its compound eyes shifted and locked onto Lin Wanqing below the stage. It had hidden in human society for years. The reason it risked exposing itself today was simple. It had sensed the presence of two sectors. One of them was on this woman. Targeted by a Tier 6 worm, Lin Wanqing instantly turned pale. Then she remembered. This was being live-streamed. If she could defeat this monster herself, getting into a top rider academy would practically be guaranteed. She gritted her teeth and summoned a blue mechanical stag beetle. You think a monster like you can run wild at the awakening exam? I'll finish you today. Heavy blue armor instantly covered her body. Kamen Rider Gatek, masked form. The livestream chat exploded again. Here we go, and a plus Gatek, we've got this. She just awakened and she's already tired too. A Tier 1 worm should be easy prey. That scared me for a second. Good thing Lin Wanqing is here. She's about to score a huge achievement. Brimming with confidence, Lin Wanqing charged forward, fists raised. Years of training made her punches fast and vicious. But to the worm, that punch looked almost frozen in place. It casually raised a huge chitinous hand and slapped her away. Bang. Gatek flew backward like a kite, with its string cut and smashed into the edge of the awakening platform. Several vicious cracks split across the heavy chest armor. The whole venue erupted. Damn ... that slap actually cracked Gatek's heavy armor. That monster's strength is insane. Lin Wanqing coughed up blood, shocked and furious, but she still had a trump card. She grabbed the curved horn on the front of the Zector and yanked it hard. The heavy masked armor covering her body burst apart along every seam. The figure beneath the shell was revealed. Sleek blue rider armor hugged her frame, sharp as a blade drawn from its sheath. Kamen Rider Gatek, rider form. The livestream exploded. Holy crap, so that's cast off. Shedding armor for speed. That is awesome. So this is Gatek's true form. A plus rank really is something else. That monster is dead now. Lin Wanqing landed and slapped the side of her belt. Her figure instantly vanished. To ordinary eyes, the entire world seemed to freeze. Only a streak of blue light raced toward the worm at extreme speed. She threw a punch with every ounce of strength, certain it would land, but the next second, a huge chitinous hand appeared in front of her. Lin Wanqing's pupils shrank. Impossible. How can it keep up with Clock Up? Before she could react, the huge hand slammed into her chest. The blue rider armor shattered piece by piece, and her transformation was forcibly cancelled. Lin Wanqing crashed to the ground, too weak even to stand. The blue Zector fell from her body and rolled to the worm's feet. The worm bent down and picked up the Zector, its eyes utterly calm. One acquired. One more to go. It slowly raised its head and looked past the fallen Lin Wanqing toward the panicked crowd. The livestream completely lost it. Even Clock Up was useless. What kind of monster is that? Even Gatek at full power couldn't survive one hit. No one can stop it. Where's the military? Where's the rescue team? Why aren't they here yet? Just then, a black figure leapt into view and blocked the worm's path. It was Shen Qinghuan, the school beauty of Lingyuan No. 3 High. It's Shen Qinghuan. Damn, it's the school beauty. An S-rank Kabuto, a Tier 4 elite rider. We should be safe now, right? His Kabuto comes from a bloodline inheritance. It's far stronger than Gatek. We're saved. The people who had been fleeing stopped in their tracks, as if clutching their final lifeline. Terrence in the stands finally breathed a sigh of relief. S-rank Kabuto, Tier 4 elite, a single worm shouldn't be a problem for him. Shen Qinghuan remained expressionless. He summoned a blood-red rhinoceros beetle, the mechanical Kabuto Zector. Without wasting a word, he locked the Zector into the belt at his waist. Heavy black hand red armor instantly covered his body. A crimson glow burned on his chest like beetle compound eyes. Kamen Rider Kabuto, masked form, landed. The next second, he flipped a horn. The silver-red outer armor burst apart and shot outward in every direction. Sleek crimson rider armor was revealed beneath. The horn on his head swung into position. He pointed a fist straight ahead. Kamen Rider Kabuto, rider form. The live stream chat went wild. So freaking cool, that monster is dead. Shen Qinghwan gave a cold shout and slapped his belt. The crimson after image vanished instantly. He poured all his bloodline power into a punch aimed at the worm's chest. That punch could pierce reinforced concrete. It was his strongest attack. Yet the worm merely lifted one hand and caught the punch dead on. Its arm did not move an inch. Shen Qinghwan's heart sank. It can use clock up to. And its level is far above mine. Before he could pull back, the worm's blade-like arm slashed down and struck him squarely in the waist. Boom. The crimson figure flew away like a cannonball and smashed into the ground beside the platform, blasting out a deep crater. His rider armor shattered layer by layer, revealing a pale Shen Qinghwan beneath. The Kabuto scepter fell from his waist. The entire venue went dead silent. The chat that had been spamming "we're safe" suddenly stopped. Then the worm started walking, step by step toward Shen Qinghwan in the rubble, toward the Kabuto scepter. The second one was almost his. No one could stop it. Just as it bent down to pick up the scepter, a sweeping kick tore through the air and slammed into its chest. This Tier 6 worm, which even a Tier 4 S-rank rider could not budge, was suddenly hit like by a speeding truck. Its entire body flew backward and smashed deep into the opposite wall. Chunks of rubble rained down. Everyone froze in shock. No one had seen what just happened. When they finally reacted, they saw you standing where the worm had been, dusting off your pant leg. You bent down and picked up the Kabuto scepter. Taking Gaiduk wasn't enough for you. Now you want Kabuto too. You looked at the worm embedded in the wall and spoke casually, "That's going a little too far. Your punishment is to bring me Gaiduk too." What just happened? How did the worm go flying? No way. Don't tell me you think Wang Xiaoming kicked it. A D-rank loser kicking a Tier 6 worm away barehanded. Keep dreaming. It must have been Shen's attack taking effect late. That loser just happened to steal the credit. And he took Shen's scepter. Who does he think he is? Without the matching rider seat, he can't transform with it anyway. No one believed you had done it. After all, you had only just awakened as a D-rank rider. How strong could your bare body be? Kicking away a Tier 6 worm, who would believe that? Shen Qinghwan lay trapped in the rubble, still conscious. He stared at the young men standing protectively before him and forced out the words, "Wang Xiaoming, go. Take the Kabuto scepter and leave. Don't worry about me." To him, you were stepping up despite knowing you couldn't win. That courage was admirable, but throwing your life away wasn't worth it. If you could escape with Kabuto, that was better than letting the monster take it. You looked back at him strangely but said nothing. In your mind, you ordered, "System, steal Kabuto's power." Ding. Kabuto scepter detected. Account theft initiated. Ding. Theft complete. All Kabuto form cards acquired. Hyperform unlocked. Host strength raised to Tier 7. King class. Beginner level. You raised an eyebrow. You casually tossed the Kabuto scepter backward. It landed neatly beside Shen Qinghwan. Tier 7 King class. Even in the entire Dragon Nation, only a handful had reached it. You raised a hand and rested it on the magenta Decade driver at your waist. Since everyone thought Decade was trash, today you would show them all just how strong this trash rider really was. With a swipe, the card holder at your waist sprang open. You drew a card bearing Decade's emblem and flicked it into the driver. With one hand, you slammed the handle shut. Click. A ring of magenta light blazed from the center of the belt. A synthesized voice echoed through the entire hall. 9 paper-thin rider silhouettes layered themselves in front of you before merging into your body at once. Magenta armor burst into shape from within and covered your limbs and torso. On the front of the helmet, 9 vertical lines formed a barcode-like faceplate. A cold yellow light flashed. Kamen Rider Decade had officially arrived. Yet the mockery in the livestream did not stop. It only got worse. All that build-up, and it's still just that D-rank Decade. The effects look flashy, but the base stats are still garbage. Low stats, no mechanics. What's the point of looking cool? A white belt swapped for a pink one. Trash in a new skin is still trash. Why is he going up there to feed himself to the monster? Even S-rank Kabuto couldn't survive one hit. What can a D-rank rider possibly do? Shen Qinghwan stared at the magenta figure from behind, his emotions in turmoil. He had been mocked across the internet as worthless. The difference in strength was supposedly enormous, yet he still stepped forward. Maybe this was what true writer spirit looked like, but then, you drew another card. The live stream camera zoomed in at just the right moment. The emblem on the card appeared clearly on the giant screen. A rhinoceros beetle silhouette, a crimson background. It was unmistakably Kabuto. Everyone froze. How does Decade have a Kabuto card? He stole it, right? He just touched someone's sector and produced a card. What is he? The photocopier writer. So what if he has a card? Can he really turn into Kabuto? Without the writer C, transformation should be impossible. He's bluffing. He's about to be exposed. You ignored the nose and turned your head toward Shen Qinghwan behind you. Your voice came through the helmet, calm but filled with absolute confidence. Watch closely. This is how you use Kabuto. You inserted the Kabuto card into the driver and pushed the handle. A crimson wave washed across the magenta armor in an instant. Clear metallic impacts rang out one after another. Sleek crimson rider armor covered your body. The horn on your head swung into position. You pointed a fist forward. Kamen Rider Kabuto, rider form. It was identical to Shen Qinghwan's transformation. The whole venue fell silent. The live stream chat froze for a full 5 seconds, as if everyone had lost connection at once. Then, the comments erupted like a volcano. Holy crap, he really turned into Kabuto. A D-rank rider turned into an S-rank Kabuto. My brain just broke. Decade can transform without a rider seat. He can actually do that. So he steals accounts right in front of people. He touches someone's sector, then turns into their rider, second later. That's ridiculous. The knockoff is even crazier than the original. Who called him the photocopier writer just now? He's clearly the king of account theft. Shen Qinghwan stared blankly at the crimson back with an empty mind. That was his Kabuto. The writer inherited through a century of Shen family blood. An S-rank Kabuto built with countless resources. Yet this young man mocked by the entire internet, as trash had only inserted one card and reproduced it perfectly. So what if you became Kabuto? A hoarse middle-aged male voice came from the rubble inside the wall. The worm walked out through the dust. A few cracks covered its body, but none were serious. I defeated the last Kabuto in a single move. How many moves can you survive? Those words snapped everyone back to reality, right? So what if he can become Kabuto? A copy is still a copy. Even the real tier for S-rank couldn't survive one move. How strong can a D-rank copy really be? Doubting comments began flooding the chat again. People below the stage whispered among themselves, thinking you were all appearance and no substance. Your left hand moved to your weapon. With a flick of your wrist, the weapon clicked and changed form, extending into a straight blade. Your palm slid along the spine of the blade to its tip. A clear metallic hum rang through the hall. Don't compare me to him. The instant your words fell, your figure vanished. You hadn't even called clock up, yet your speed surpassed Shen Qinghwan even when he used it. In the next instant, you were already in front of the worm. Your blade swept upward from below and struck the inside of its blade-like arm. A piercing clang of metal rang out. The worm's arm was knocked high into the air, leaving its guard wide open. You pressed your wrist down and swept the blade sideways, cutting into a seam in its chest armor. Sparks flew. The worm grunted and staggered backward. It tried to counterattack, but its arm was only halfway raised when your second and third slashes came down. Your crimson figure circled it at high speed. Sword-like merged into a dense web. Every strike landed precisely on a seam in its armor. Every move was lethal. This was the Tier 6 worm that had slapped Gatek away and one-shot Kabuto. Now it was being beaten so badly it couldn't raise a hand. It had no chance to fight back at all. The livestream went completely insane. Holy crap, am I seeing this right? He's dominating a Tier 6 worm. This is D-rank. Whoever calls Decade D-rank trash again can eat dirt. After exchanging a few moves, you understood its strength. This worm was at the peak of Tier 6, Master Class, only half a stat from King Class. It could run rampant throughout Lingyuan City. Unfortunately, against you, now Tier 7 King, it was a full major realm behind. You slashed again, and the worm's chest armor split completely apart. It flew backward and smashed through half the stands. You did not pursue it. Instead, you drew another card and threw it into the driver. Attack Rai. Clock up. Cracks burst across the ground beneath your feet. Your figure disappeared completely. To everyone watching, the world froze. Only a crimson afterimage circled the worm as it struggled back to its feet. Slash after slash formed an impenetrable barrage. Within a few breaths, the worm's shell had been carved full of wounds. Greenish fluid splattered across the floor. He can even use clock up. That's absurd. So Decade doesn't just copy appearances. He steals the other riders' abilities and mechanics too. How is that D rank? That's clearly SSS rank. Lin Wanqing had just regained consciousness. She stared at the one-sided battle on the screen and heard people around her saying Wang Xiaoming, Decade, and Tier 7. She was completely dumbfounded. The loser she had publicly dumped, the D rank rider she had never even respected, was pinning a Tier 6 worm down and beating it. Her face burned with humiliation, worse than the slap the worm had given her. The battered worm was finally forced into a corner. It let out a shrill scream as a strange fluctuation surged from its body. The next instant, the entire world, including you in Clock Up, slowed down. Time stop. This was the worm's trump card ability. Your whole body felt trapped in a swamp. Your movement slowed to a crawl. Clock Up was forcibly cancelled. That the worm could move freely within the stop time, it raised its blade arm high and brought it down on your chest with all its strength. Bang, the blade struck. Your entire body was blasted backward and slammed into the wall, leaving a massive crater and throwing dust everywhere. Clock over. The world began moving again. Everyone froze in disbelief. The crimson figure that had dominated moments ago had suddenly been sent flying. The live stream comments instantly changed tone again. See, I told you, D rank is still D rank. That was just a flashy last burst of strength. The moment the monster got serious, he fell apart immediately. Man, I got excited for nothing. I thought a real genius had appeared. Turns out he's still trash. It's over, it's over. Our last bit of hope is gone. Everyone, run. The dust slowly cleared. The figure inside the crater slowly stood up. You brushed the dust from your body. Your blue compound eyes stared coldly at the worm. There wasn't a trace of distress in your voice. So you want to play with time stop? Fine. I'll play along. You drew yet another card from the holder. The live stream camera immediately zoomed in. On the card stood a majestic rider wrapped in red and gold. Its silhouette resembled Kabuto, yet compared with Kabuto, it radiated an indescribable majesty and pressure. The card read, Kabuto Hyperform, Kamen Rider Kabuto, Hyperform. On the day of your awakening, you somehow awaken the Decade Driver. Not only could you truly transform into Kamen Rider Decade, you could also freely switch between every rider form from the Showa, Heisei, and Reiwa eras. The instant the worm saw that card, it instinctively took 2 steps back. It could sense just how terrifying that power was. But the moment that thought surfaced, you had already inserted the card into the driver. Kamen Rai, Kabuto, Hyperform Change, Hyper Beetle. Golden streams of light raced across the crimson armor. The horn on your head grew taller and thicker, splitting into 2 dark red prongs. The chest armor contracted into heavy silver plating, while dark red patterns ran from your throat to your abdomen. The shoulder armor unfolded layer by layer, and 2 pairs of small wings of light spread from your back. Your deep blue compound eyes lit up, casting an icy gaze across the arena. Kamen Rider Kabuto, Hyperform. A terrifying aura swept through the entire examination hall. The worm no longer dared hesitate. It turned and tried to flee, trying to run now. Too late, you drew another card and flung it into the driver. Attack ride ... Hyper Clock Up. The instant the sound rang out, your figure vanished into thin air. The worm's scalp went numb. Almost by instinct, it unleashed all its power and activated time stop once again. The entire world froze once more. This time, it searched every corner, yet couldn't find a trace of you. Impossible. Even with Hyper Clock Up, he shouldn't be able to vanish completely inside my stop time. It maintained the time stop, its nerves stretched to the breaking point. But as time dragged on, its power rapidly approached its limit. Still, there was no sign of you. If this continued, it would only exhaust itself. Grinding its teeth, the worm released time stop. The instant time began flowing again. A flash of blade light erupted behind it without warning and tore viciously into its back. Hyper Clock Over, your voice sounded from behind it. The Rai Bukersor in your hand was still slick with dark green fluid as the wings on your back slowly folded. The Hyperform chest armor gradually returned to normal. The worm spun around in alarm. Its hoarse voice trembled with shock and disbelief. Why dash you ... How did you break through my time stop? Dragging the longsword, you calmly circled around to face it. You can stop time, but I can travel through time. If you stop time at this moment, then I'll simply jump to a moment where you can no longer keep it stopped, that's all. I'll just come back after your time stop ends. In simple terms, whoever acts first wins. You reached into the card holder and drew a card bearing Kabuto's emblem. You tapped it twice with your fingertip, then slammed it into the Decade Driver. Final attack ride ... Double quotes KKK Kabuto. You brought your palms together. Your entire right leg erupted with dazzling crimson light. This farce ends now. The moment the words left your mouth, you leapt high as brilliant light burst from your armor. Two energy wings silently spread behind you. Faster than light particles surged wildly into your right leg, condensing into a blazing corona. You twisted in midair and drove a devastating kick straight at the worm. Hyper Kabuto Rider Kick. The worm instinctively tried to activate Time Stop, but the earlier sword wound had already shattered the power inside its body. It couldn't summon even a fraction of it. In desperation, it crossed its blade-like arms in front of itself to block. Crack. The arms that had once smashed through an S-rank Kabuto crumbled like dead branches beneath your flying kick. The crimson light tore straight through and pierced its chest. The point of impact began collapsing at a visible speed. You think you can kill me? The worm's voice overflowed with hatred. Next time we meet, I'll rip that armor off you. Before it could finish speaking, its entire body exploded. It dissolved into countless green motes of light and vanished. Only one thing remained. A blue mechanical insect hovering silently in the air. It was the stolen Gate Exector. You raised a hand and caught it firmly in your palm. The next second, the system notification sounded in your mind. Detected Gate Exector. Beginning ability extraction. Host has killed a peak tier 6 masterclass monster. Reward, 10,000 points. Gate Exector extraction complete. All Gate form cards acquired. You closed your hand around the Zector and sheathed your sword, with a casual flick. With a light touch on the Decade Driver, the crimson armor peeled away layer by layer, turning into streams of magenta light that vanished in an instant. The magenta belt disappeared as well, revealing the plainly dressed young man once more. The live stream chat immediately erupted. Public opinion flipped a full 180 degrees. He kicked a tier 6 worm to pieces with one blow. How is that D-rank trash? Even S-rank riders are nothing compared to this. Inside the examination hall, the people huddled in the corners finally realized what had happened. The monster was dead. They had survived. After a brief silence, deafening cheers nearly tore the roof off. The same people who had just been fighting to escape through the doors all turned around and rushed toward you. Flattery came one line after another. Boss Wang Xiaoming. I knew you were hiding your true strength. Those idiots insulting you must have been blind. I believed in you from the very beginning. Most of them had been calling you the second worst piece of trash only moments ago. Now they changed their tune faster than turning a page, leaving the livestream viewers speechless. Several people wearing the emblems of powerful clans also forced their way through the crowd. They immediately began competing for you. Student Wang Xiaoming, I represent the Yun family. If you're willing to join us, name many conditions you want. The Yun family is nothing. My Chen family will make you a core retainer. Money, resources, whatever you want, we'll provide it. Move aside. I can secure you a place at a military-affiliated rider academy. That's worth far more than your little family fortunes. The crowd argued until their faces turned red, as if they wanted to divide you up on the spot. But as you looked at them, only cold indifference remained in your eyes. 15 minutes was enough to see how fickle people could be. When you were down, they trampled you. When you rose, they rushed to flatter you. In the end, only you could truly rely on yourself. Just as the commotion reached its peak, a sharp sonic boom came from outside the examination hall. A white and red blur streaked into the venue and slammed to a sudden stop in the center. Two charred skid marks were gouged into the floor. The sleek white and red armor looked built for speed, and the helmet resembled a racing helmet. A cold blue light glowed behind the visor. A compact tire was mounted on the right shoulder, while orange-red flames decorated the driver at his waist. Kamen Rider Mach, Lei Heng, a Tier 6 master from the Lin Yuan City military garrison. The instant the high-ranking powerhouse screeched to a stop, Lei Heng tensed and raised his Zenrin shooter. The wheel at the muzzle spun with a piercing whine as he prepared to confront the Tier 6 worm, but when he looked up, there wasn't even a trace of the worm. The place was a wreck. Girls lay injured, and sections of the stands had been smashed apart. The only person left standing in the center was the plainly dressed young man with a calm expression. "Where's the worm?" The voice from his helmet couldn't hide his confusion. Someone immediately rushed to answer. "Master Lei, you came too late. The monster's already been taken care of. If student Wang Xiaoming hadn't stepped in, that worm would have wiped us all out." The live stream chat immediately filled with mockery. "Big name Tier 6 master, huh? The monster's already been reduced to dust and only now does he show up. Way too late. Rescue rider, who am I? Where am I? Why am I here?" Lei Heng ignored the ridicule. He removed the signal bike from his driver and cancelled his transformation, revealing a square-jawed face full of bewilderment. "Wang Xiaoming, who's Wang Xiaoming?" Everyone pointed at you in unison. "That's him. He only awakened today. They originally rated his decade as D-rank. D-rank, my ass. Anyone who calls decade D-rank again will have to answer to me. Maybe decade isn't the one that's absurdly strong. Maybe Wang Xiaoming himself is the monster." Lei Heng abruptly fixed his gaze on you. You were still holding a blue mechanical insect, your expression unbelievably calm. As though killing a Tier 6 monster had been nothing more than an everyday matter. For a moment, Lei Heng's thoughts became a complete mess. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. He had been awakened for over 20 years and had seen countless newly awakened riders. But there had never been a precedent like this. Initial awakening levels followed an iron rule. Most people were only Tier 1 beginners on the day they awaken. Exceptionally gifted people could reach Tier 2. Even a 1 in 10,000 S-rank bloodline prodigy would top out at Tier 4 elite, yet this young man had awakened only today, and what he awakened was Decade, universally rated D rank. Yet he'd killed a worm that was at least Tier 6, and this wasn't an ordinary Tier 6 monster. Years ago, several Tier 6 ultimate riders had joined forces to surround it, yet it escaped using its time stop ability. Its overall combat power was comparable to a Tier 7 king. A young man who had just awakened had defeated a worm of that level. If this was really true, then all of Lei Heng's 20 years of hard training might as well have been wasted on a dog. Beside the ruins of the examination hall, Lin Wanqing struggled to move. Her face was as white as paper. Above her, the live stream camera remained fixed on the scene, while mocking comments about her flooded the screen. Half an hour ago, she'd publicly dumped the so-called D-rank loser. Then you transformed into Hyper Kabuto and became the hero who saved everyone. Meanwhile, she had become the clown mocked by the entire internet. Regret gnawed painfully at her heart. She stumbled and crawled over behind you, her voice trembling. Brother Xiaoming. Everything I said earlier was just to provoke you. I've always believed in you. The moment the words left her mouth, even she knew how weak they sounded. What chilled her even more was that you didn't even turn around. To you, this girl claiming to be your ex-girlfriend was nothing more than a complete stranger. That total indifference humiliated her more than any insult ever could. She froze where she stood, then suddenly locked her eyes on the blue mechanical insect in your hand. That was her Gaedic. It was the A+ rank rider power she had awakened, the foundation she expected to rely on for the rest of her life. What terrified her even more was that the rider seed inside her had completely lost its connection to Gaedic. Without the Zector, she would never be able to transform again. Fear overwhelmed her shame. She cried out desperately, Wang Xiaoming, I don't care if you ignore me, but Gaedic is the power I awakened. Please give it back to me. You finally turned around. There wasn't the slightest ripple in your gaze, only coldness. You were willing to return Kabuto to Shen Qinghuan because there was no grudge between you. She was also highly talented, and her future growth could benefit you as well. But Lin Wanqing had publicly humiliated you earlier. Even if you returned Gaedic to her, someone like her would never amount to much. It would only waste resources. You settled grudges on the spot. This Gaedic was staying with you. Why? Lin Wanqing completely lost control under your icy gaze. Her voice turned shrill. That's my rider. It's the power I awakened. You have to give it back. The gentle school beauty image she'd worn moments ago vanished without a trace. The live stream chat exploded again. Some thought it was wrong for you to keep someone else's driver, but other viewers immediately fired back. She couldn't protect it and let a monster steal it. Wang Xiaoming risked his life to take it back from a Tier 6 monster. That's war loot. Why should he return it for free? Others argued that a Zector was bound to its rider C. A monster couldn't use it anyway, so he might as well return it as a favor. But most people were laughing at how quickly Lin Wanqing changed faces. Let's just break up. Give it back to me right now. Less than half an hour separated those two attitudes. In this world, strength ruled above all. You had won everyone's recognition through sheer power. No one was willing to stand on Lin Wanqing's side anymore. Seeing the dispute grow worse, Tier 6 Master Lei Heng finally stepped between the two of you. His Tier 6 pressure spread outward, and the nosy Hall immediately fell silent. He looked at you, his tone far more courteous than before. Student, you've rendered a great service today. The military will reward you generously. But taking another person's awakened rider-driver without permission violates the laws of the Dragon Nation. What he said was an iron rule. Years ago, a powerful clan had seized drivers to suppress its rivals, and was ultimately wiped out completely by the Dragon Court. To this day, no one dared violate that rule openly. You raised an eyebrow, without anyone noticing. Your palm injected a strange power into the Gaedic sector. Lei Heng's heart tightened when he saw your expression. He feared you might refuse outright, but then you spoke calmly. Since Senior has spoken, I'll give it back to you. You casually tossed it. The Gaedic sector landed squarely in Lin Wanqing's hands. The instant she caught it, a flash of vicious satisfaction crossed her eyes. So what if you're a peerless genius? You still have to obey the rules. But before she could feel smug for even 2 seconds, your next sentence made her freeze in place. But I have one condition. You looked at Lin Wanqing, your voice perfectly calm. You have to prove that you can still use that Gaedic sector. Lin Wanqing, holding the Gaelic sector, froze for a moment. What kind of condition is that? This was the A+ rank rider Gaelic that she had awakened. How could she possibly be unable to use her own rider power? There were many reasons a rider seed could lose its connection to a driver, but if it was truly one's own awakened rider power, regaining the driver would restore the bond. Lin Wanqing didn't know why her connection to the Gaelic sector had been severed, but Gaelic was unquestionably the power she had awakened, as long as she got the sector back. Transforming again should have been only natural, you said it yourself. Master Lei Han is here as a witness, and hundreds of millions of livestream viewers are watching you. Don't go back on your word. You glanced at her expressionlessly. You think I'm like you? When I, Wang Xiaoming, give my word, I keep it. Anger surged up inside her at the insult, but Lin Wanqing knew very well that getting the Gaelic sector back mattered far more than her pride. She suppressed her anger, waiting only for the moment she could use the sector again. The livestream comments, however, erupted first. The screen filled with confusion and mockery. She called you trash in front of everyone, and now you're just giving her stuff back. Where'd that ruthless guy who one-shot the monster go? Why are you such a pushover now? These two really are something. You're this soft on your ex. That's pathetic. You risked your life to take the thing back from a monster. No one understood what you were planning. They assumed you still had feelings for Lin Wanqing and were willingly taking a loss for her sake. Even Shen Qinghuan looked deeply puzzled. Given your personality, why would you simply hand over power you'd already obtained? Lin Wanqing ignored everyone else's comments. With trembling hands, she pressed the Gaelic sector into the driver at her waist. The instant it clicked into place, the familiar heavy armor did not materialize. There was no familiar responding hum from the sector. Instead, the entire driver suddenly exploded. A burst of violent energy mercilessly blasted her backward. Her already battered body rolled across the floor for several meters before crashing heavily to a stop. Even the driver was torn loose and bounced away to the side. She tried several times, but couldn't stand up. Only confusion and disbelief remained in her eyes. The stunned silence lasted barely a second before the livestream completely erupted. Her own sector just blew her away. But Gaelic was the power she awakened. How can she suddenly not use it? Wait, when Wang Xiaoming told her to prove she could use it, he wasn't saying that casually at all. He knew this would happen from the start. This isn't returning her stuff. It's a public execution before hundreds of millions. That two-faced bitch. That's my power. The Gaelic sector. Who the hell are you? On the day of your awakening, you somehow manifested the Decade Driver. Not only could you truly transform into Kamen Rider Decade, you could also freely switch between every rider form from Showa, Heisei, and Reiwa. You had already expected this. Without hurrying, you stepped forward and picked up the sector and the driver that had been knocked away, weighing them in your palm. You looked down at Lin Wanqing, sprawled on the ground. For the first time, mockery appeared in your eyes. Do you understand now? It doesn't recognize you anymore. Lin Wanqing, the moment that monster one-shotted you, Gaelic abandoned you. You're not worthy of Gaelic, the god of war. As soon as you finished speaking, under everyone's shocked gaze, you fastened the Gaelic driver around your own waist. Lin Wanqing's heart instantly sank. A chill crawled down her spine. Impossible. Once a rider awakens, their rider type is fixed. As someone who awakened Decade, how could he possibly wield Gaelic's power? The crowd around them erupted too. Once your rider awakens, it's set for life. He's Decade. He can use Gaelic too. Lin Wanqing just got blown away by it. He's gambling with his life. If that sector really accepts him, the laws of this world will have to be rewritten, under countless watching eyes. You raised your hand. You calmly pressed the Gaelic sector onto the driver. Click. The sector didn't resist in the slightest. Instead, it emitted a low, obedient hum. Heavy blue armor spread over your body, angular masked armor covering you from head to toe. Kamen Rider Gaelic, masked form. Everyone sucked in a breath. He can really use someone else's awakened rider power. You gripped the sector's horn and snapped it down hard. Cast off. The cold synthesized voice rang clearly through the arena. The bulky armor burst apart at every seam, shooting outward too fast for the eye to follow. Change stag beetle. Sleek blue rider armor emerged, slim and sharp, like a blade freshly drawn from its sheath. It was Gaelic's rider form, exactly the same as Lin Wanqing's earlier transformation. The live stream fell silent for half a second, then comments flooded the screen. Holy crap, he really transformed, and he's using Lin Wanqing's own belt. Anyone who called him a simp, come apologize. He planned this from the start. Her own awakened power abandoned its original owner and chose someone else instead. That's beyond humiliating. Does that mean he can use anyone's belt? I can't even imagine his upper limit. Senior Lei, she can't use Gaelic anymore, but I can. This Gaelic sector should count as mine now, right? You turned toward Lei Han, your tone calm. Lei Heng had already gone pale with shock, and awakened power abandoning its original owner for another had never happened before in Longwa's history. After hesitating for a moment, he nodded. Since you can wield its power, the belt belongs to you. You removed the Zector, and the armor dissolved into the wind. Your handsome face was revealed. A wise decision, Senior Lei. You casually tossed the Zector backward. It vanished into the void in a flash of mist. The driver at your waist slowly disappeared as well. Decade's power already encompassed and far surpassed Gaedic. Taking this power was purely to spite Lin Wanqing. No, that's mine. My Gaedic. Lin Wanqing screamed hysterically from the ground. Her entire body was racked with pain, yet she kept staring at where the Zector had vanished. She had only made it this far by leveraging her connection to you. After awakening an rank rider power, she had been about to enter one of the 9 great rider academies and rise straight to the top. In a blink, she fell from the clouds into the mud. Without rider power, with her mediocre academic grades, she might not even get into an ordinary university. One step from heaven, one step from hell. No one paid attention to the collapsing Lin Wanqing anymore. Every eye was fixed on you. You followed Lei Heng to rider headquarters for questioning. Meanwhile, news about you had already spread across every platform in Longwo. This year's national entrance exam wasn't even over, yet the top scorer had already been decided. Wang Xiaoming, the boy who awakened Decade at the Linyuan City exam site. No one questioned your place at the top. The rating committee issued its verdict. Decade, provisionally S+. It wasn't that Decade's ceiling was only S+. The current rating system simply maxed out at S+. And the reason you claimed first place was brutally simple. On the very day of awakening, you publicly killed a Tier 6+ worm. Even top awakeners usually started no higher than Tier 4. Yet you, a complete newcomer, had casually taken down a monster even Tier 6 masters had to take seriously. The word genius was no longer enough to describe you. Social media exploded. Awakened today and already slaughtering Tier 6 South. This has to be the most absurd top scorer in history. From Trash Tier Decade to Longwa's top scorer in a single livestream. Even wet novels wouldn't dare write this. Other people earned first place through exams. Brother Xiaoming fought his way to it. Before you even left Linyuan Rider headquarters, 9 recruitment offers were already lined up on the headquarters table. They came from Longwa's 9 most elite rider academies. They stood at the very peak, where every awakened rider dreamed of studying. They held the highest grade rider seeds, the most complete combat relics, and the most dangerous training grounds. Graduates of ordinary academies could only become local garrison riders. The graduates of the 9 could be recruited by the military, granted elite status by noble houses, and might even earn a place in the Dragon Court. Not to mention each academy's dean was a peak Tier 7 powerhouse, only half a step from the world's ceiling. Usually, the 9 great academies looked down on everyone else. Students had to beg for admission. Even the national top scorer only received a little extra attention, but this time, all 9 schools shared the exact same attitude. No matter the cost, they had to recruit this unprecedented talent. The fallout from the livestream had already crossed national borders. A Decade who could become any rider and seize others' powers was enough to put every rider superpower on edge. Britain began modeling your battlefield threat overnight. Sakala countries started plotting how to poach you. Several warlike nations were already harboring killing intent. There were only a little over 10 days until the next tournament of nations. The world's young prodigies would gather there to compete for national prestige and rift mining rights. An 18-year-old Tier 6 Decade would already be overwhelmingly dominant among youths. If you were allowed 10 more days to grow, you could become a nuclear-level variable. Some wanted to recruit you, some wanted to test you, others were already calculating how to erase this piece from the board in advance. Somewhere beyond humanity's field of view, beneath the warped sky of a vast hidden realm, sinister energy filled an alien world. Monsters entered the human world from here through the rifts. Decade has appeared again. A member of the Blood Tribe spoke in a teasing tone, clearly enjoying the spectacle. 500 years ago, that guy fought his way here alone. In the end, his core power was completely destroyed. I didn't expect a new awakener to appear, just a little rider who steals power. The king of the Gorongi, Daguba, spoke coldly. If we destroyed him once, we can destroy him again. If he lives long enough to face me, then this game might actually become interesting. He's merely a new player entering the game. Everyone must follow the rules I set. Masamune Dang, self-proclaimed god of games, let out a light chuckle and thought nothing of it. Until the king of monsters, shrouded in black mist, spoke, and the entire room instantly fell silent. The Decade from 500 years ago never fully awakened. He couldn't use all his powers, not even his final forms, yet he still turned this world upside down. Letting this one grow will only become troublesome. If we can eliminate him early, we should. Then his tone shifted, bringing up to matters of even greater importance. But compared with decade, these are what you should be watching. First, Zio's belt. Once it appears, the trouble will far exceed decade. Second, the Emperor armor, known as Heaven's Tao. Even I would rather not provoke it lightly. We must eliminate its host before it awakens. The Black Mist paused, then continued. As for decade, someone is already watching him. There's no need to disrupt our plans because of him. Among the people we've marked, one has just entered the academy we've already planted agents in. Excellent material. Start with him. The Black Mist dispersed. The pressure vanished with it. An invisible net was silently closing around Longwo. At Linyuan City Rider headquarters, Gray City skyline stretched beyond the top floor windows. You hadn't been sitting on the sofa long when the door opened. A square-faced middle-aged man strode in. His dark uniform made him look even more imposing. His natural authority made it hard to breathe. He was Yue Qin, Commander-in-Chief of Linyuan City's Rider headquarters, a Tier 6 master, a peak S-rank Kamen Rider Night Awakener. Only one step away from Tier 7 King, Lei Heng behind him introduced him respectfully. Anyone else would barely dare breathe in front of Yue Qin. You merely glanced at him, completely unshaken. You were stronger than Yue Qin. Strength was the greatest source of confidence. Yue Qin got straight to the point and sat across from you. Student Wang Xiaoming, I want to know, why is your decade so different from every previous wielder? The old decade drivers were white. They only had one basic finisher and couldn't transform into other riders. Nor did they have your card storing sort. You leaned back on the sofa, sounding lazy. It's simple. Those people before me weren't worthy of using decade. Decade is the strongest rider. No exceptions. Yue Qin took it as youthful arrogance. There's always someone stronger. Don't speak too absolutely. You couldn't be bothered to argue. You're right. The perfunctory tone was obvious. Yue Qin wasn't offended. He returned to the main point. Transforming into other riders and taking other people's belts. Are those decade's innate abilities? You shook your head. No comment. That's my secret. The office fell silent for several seconds. Yue Qin stared at you, rapidly weighing his options. This boy had killed a Tier 6 worm. His strength could not be underestimated. Pressing too hard will only push him away. In the end, Yue Qin swallowed the question. He took a sip of tea, then asked, why did your proctor turn into a worm? You fought it. Do you know what it wanted? You frowned and thought for a moment. Why he became a worm, I don't know. Commander Yue should investigate the alarm system. As for its objective, it seemed to want Kabuto's and Gatak sectors, probably to restore its power. Yue Qin and Lei Heng exchanged a glance, their hearts sinking. In the past, no worm could hide from the alarm system, yet now there had been an exception. If this wasn't an isolated case, how many monsters were still hiding among humans? The thought was terrifying. Anything else? If not, give me my reward. My sister is waiting for me to come home for dinner. Your words snapped them both out of their thoughts. A trace of helplessness flashed in Yue Qin's eyes. This boy really wasn't intimidated by his aura at all. He had come here with his eyes on a reward. One last thing. Do you plan to choose one of the 9 great academies, a noble house academy, or a military academy? You answered without hesitation. Which one has the most geniuses? That's where I'll go. Decade's power had yet to fully awaken. You needed contact with more powerful riders to unlock more final forms. The more geniuses a place had, the stronger the riders awaken there would be. That was exactly what you needed. As dusk settled over Linyuan City's skyline, a rider headquarters car stopped below your apartment building. You entered the spacious top-floor apartment. The warm aroma of food greeted you. You're back. Wang Yang came over wearing an apron, her eyes curving into gentle crescents. She had naturally long purple hair, gleaming softly beneath the warm lights. Her small face was fair and delicate, and her simple cotton dress outlined a graceful figure. Her fingertips bore the faint roughness of years of housework. She gently straightened the collar the wind had messed up. The two of you had grown up together in an orphanage, the only family either of you had in this world. Back then, to support your path toward becoming a rider, Wang Yang had given up her studies and worked day and night, dragging you through hardship all the way to this day. Now that you had awakened and Decade's talent had taken the country by storm, the hard days were finally over. While changing shoes, you teased her, sis, guess what I awakened today? Wang Yang smiled without the slightest hesitation. My little brother is the best. Of course you awakened the strongest rider. Those words warmed your heart. No matter how many people outside called you trash dear, only this sister had believed from beginning to end that you were the best. The table was filled with all your favorite dishes. Dinner tasted especially good. Afterward, sitting close together on the sofa, you carefully began to speak. On the day of your awakening, you manifested the Decade Driver. Not only could you truly transform into Kamen Rider Decade, you could also freely switch between every rider form from Showa, Heisei, and Reiwa. Sis, I want you to have rider power too. When I leave town for school, you'll at least have a way to protect yourself. Wang Yang froze for a moment, then shook her head with a smile. Silly, I'm already past the best age for awakening. Once you miss that chance, it can never awaken again. Her tone was calm, as if she'd accepted it long ago. No one knew she had once possessed the talent to awaken too. She had personally cut off the path for your sake. But you only shook your head. You gently placed your palm against her back. Trust me, the decade seed within you contained countless possibilities, and could resonate with every rider. Although your power had yet to fully awaken, it was already enough to mobilize Gadok's power and make your sister's long-withered rider seed take root and sprout once more. What others would call impossible, you were determined to accomplish. And if that failed, the system shop was your backup. Pale blue energy slowly flowed from your palm into her body. Wang Yang felt as if a lamp had been lit inside her. It was a sensation she had never felt before. Even her breathing grew hot. After an unknown amount of time, that strand of power finally took firm root. You withdrew your hand, sweat beading on your forehead, but you couldn't suppress your smile. You had done it. Your sister, who should have had no chance of becoming a rider, had become compatible with Gadok. You raised your hand. The blue Gadok sector and driver appeared in your palm. These are yours from now on. At first, Gadok still seemed reluctant. But under the pressure of Decade's power, it immediately submitted. It slowly flew over to Wang Yang and established a bond with her. Wang Yang stared at everything before her. Her eyes gradually turned red. She leaned forward softly and planted a gentle kiss on your cheek. A faint milky fragrance lingered. Thank you, you brat. Her voice carried a slight choke. Your ears instantly turned red. You turned your face away. Sis ... double quotes, I'm not a kid anymore. Wang Yang laughed, then reached out and ruffled your hair. As her fingers brushed your hair, the living room fell quiet. Only the city lights outside glowed with impossible warmth. After that little interlude, you personally taught Wang Yang the basics of using Gadok. Transformation and clock up could be activated directly. The combat skill and rank advancement could only be built over time. Even Decade's power couldn't create a high-tier rider out of nothing. Wang Yang had only just entered Tier 2, but her future ceiling was high. You could always get her a better belt later. Back in your room, you opened the system panel. Host, Wang Xiaoming. Awakened power. Decade Rider C. Rank, Tier 7 King. Early stage, current rider powers. All main riders base forms and basic derivative forms. Hyper Kabuto, Gadok base forms. System points, 10,000. With a thought, you entered the system shop. A Tier 1 recovery potion cost only 1 point. A miracle drug by ordinary standards. At the very top was the Tier 9 Mythic section. Ultimate Emperor Armor, Omazio's power. Both were priced at 10 billion points. Your mouth twitched. Even killing 1,000 Tier 9 monsters might not be enough. Borrowing powers from Awakeners in the real world was far cheaper. You switched to the Tier 6 item section and finally spent all 10,000 points on the 5-element bloodline. 10% of Decade's power didn't cover the armor hero system. Once you obtained the Emperor Armor's power, the 5-element bloodline would be its foundation. It was preparation for the future. You also spotted ZO2, priced at 500,000 points. Its ability to reverse time was absurdly powerful. Unfortunately, there hadn't been a ZO Awakener in the real world for centuries. You could only save points slowly. By the time everything was done, it was late at night. You fell asleep immediately. The next 2 months were busy but fulfilling. By day, you trained at a private military facility. It had originally been Yue Qin's exclusive training room. The military cleared it out specifically for you. There wasn't a single surveillance device inside. You cycled through every main rider's base form and practiced them all. You also repeatedly refined your feel for Hyper Kabuto and Gadok. Decade's forms were vast and varied. Each one had different power and combat logic. Just understanding them all consumed most of your energy. At night, you came home and trained Wang Yang in Gadok. Her movements were still awkward. Whenever you moved closer to correct her posture, her ears would quietly turn red. Why are you standing so close? Yet she never actually pushed you away. That hard-to-name feeling quietly grew amid their ordinary days together, without either of you noticing. Life was more peaceful than it had ever been. When you came home late from training, hot soup was waiting. When your form was wrong, someone patiently corrected you. This little home that once held only the two of you was slowly becoming a better place. A little over half a month later, the military's notice finally arrived. The academy Yue Qin chose for you was called Lonyuan Academy. Lonyuan Academy, its name sounded closely tied to Linyuan City, and in fact, there really was a connection. It was directly affiliated with Linyuan City, with its campus in neighboring Yuking. Yue Qin recommended it first because he himself had graduated from there, so he wanted to support his alma mater. Second, Lonyuan students and faculty, or elite, consistently ranking among Longwa's top 2. It was packed with geniuses, exactly what you wanted. For you, it was an even more perfect choice. There were many writer powers on campus. More importantly, it was close to home, only half an hour away by car. Even living on campus, you could often come home to see Wang Yang. There would be no painful separation. For that reason alone, you agreed on the spot. The remaining month passed peacefully until school began. Wang Yang was even more nervous than you were. The night before enrollment, she kept repacking your luggage, putting things in and taking them back out, while nagging you nonstop. Remember to come home for dinner on weekends. Don't push yourself too hard. Come back when you're tired. I'll always be waiting for you at home. I know, sis. Stop treating me like a kid. Warmth filled your chest. Wang Yang had given you a home. She gave you somewhere to belong in this unfamiliar world. In front of your sister, you were always willing to lower your guard and show your youthful side. Looking at your packed luggage, you thought about entering Longyuan Academy tomorrow. You wondered how many writer powers inside could make you stronger. On enrollment day, the gates of Longyuan Academy were packed with people. This directly affiliated writer academy was magnificent. Every student reporting in was a top exam candidate from somewhere. Each one full of confidence, carrying your luggage, you followed the crowd through registration and collected your student badge. As the national top scorer, many people recognized you, but few came over to greet you. They were all elite prodigies themselves. Even though the exam livestream had spread across the internet, many still questioned whether it was real. They only dared steal glances at you. Everything remained uneventful. Until you spotted two familiar faces among the welcoming crowd. Shen Qinghuan still had her usual cool, aloof expression. She stood out sharply from the crowd. Beside her was a girl with light purple hair. Her name was Sunan, the young lady of Linyuan Su family. She had awakened the S-rank main rider Kuga, said to possess ultimate power. No one had ever developed it to its true limit. At most, they had reached rising forms. You had already placed her on your target list. After all, you intended to collect every rider power. A top-tier power like this couldn't be passed up. While chatting, Sunan casually glanced over and happened to see you. At almost the same moment, Shen Qinghuan abruptly stopped walking. For the past 2 months, she had desperately tried to forget that figure from the exam hall, the one who transformed into Hyper Kabuto and blew apart a Tier 6 monster with a single kick. But the harder she tried, the clearer the memory became. The Shen family had also sent people to visit you several times, hoping to uncover the secret behind Hyper Kabuto. You refused them every time. In the end, Yueqin had headquarters step in and turn them away. Neither of you expected to meet again at Longyuan Academy. Sunyan's eyes darted mischievously. She nudged Shen Qinghuan with her elbow and whispered with a grin, "Hey isn't that Wang Xiaoming, the top scorer who saved you?" Wang Xiaoming, running into each other on the first day. What fate? Don't talk nonsense. Shen Qinghuan's face warmed, even the tips of her ears turned red. Her voice lost its usual coolness and sounded strangely flustered. How am I talking nonsense? If it hadn't been for him back then, Sunan, Shen Qinghuan cut her off sharply. Sunan obediently shut her mouth, but her face clearly said, "I understand everything." At that moment, an arrogant voice cut in. "Why are two beauties chatting here instead of registering?" The newcomer was Nangong Lai. He was the young master of Linyuan's Nangong family and had awakened common writer Thebi. He had pursued Shen Qinghuan for a long time and wanted to impress her. But seeing the two girls looking at you and laughing, his expression instantly darkened. "So that's who it is, the famous Decade," Nangong Lai said, decade with heavy sarcasm. A writer ranked trash for centuries suddenly becomes S+ in your hands. Who knows what tricks are involved? You two should keep your eyes open, get too close to someone like him, and you might ruin your reputations. Sunan immediately snapped back, "Do you even know how to speak? There are still videos online of Wang Xiaoming killing a Tier 6 monster. If he's not worthy of first place, then who is? Just edited footage. What's so hard about that?" Nangong Lai sneered. Even that whole livestream could have been fake. With the Shen family's resources, creating a figurehead would be easy. The Shen family needed someone to prop up their reputation, so they pushed him out and used Kabuto as a stunt. You might fool outsiders, but you can't fool someone from another great family. Shen Qinghuan's face turned icy. She clenched her fists, ready to act. "But you spoke first. Your tone was indifferent. Who the hell are you? You know defamation can land you in prison, right?" Nangong Li's mouth twitched. A vulgar nobody isn't fit to be the Shen family's shield. The surrounding students immediately began whispering. Doubts rose from every direction. Many believed you were a puppet promoted by the Shen family. But hearing all that, you didn't even frown. You merely glanced at Nangong Lai as if looking at an idiot, your eyes filled with pity. You couldn't be bothered arguing. He wasn't worth the effort. You turned to Shen Qinghuan. Long time no see. When you're free, let's talk about your power. With that, you picked up your luggage to leave. As for Su Nyan, who had defended you, you remembered that favor too. You had wanted Kuga's power for a long time, but there was no need to rush. Shen Qinghuan's heart raced. Did his words mean he truly had a way to evolve Kabuto into hyper form? You turned to leave, but Nangonglai was completely enraged. The humiliation of being ignored in public went straight to his head. He rushed forward and blocked your path. Wang, I'm not finished talking. Where do you think you're going? Before he finished, you raised your fist and smashed him square in the nose. Dang. Nangonglai staggered backward, blood streamed between his fingers. His eyes widened, his face full of disbelief. You dare hit me. I ignored you because I couldn't be bothered, not because I had no problem with you. You shook out your hand. Your tone remained calm. Keep jumping around, and I won't be nice. Nangonglai had never suffered such humiliation. His anger exploded. He wiped away the blood and slammed the Thebi Zector onto his transformation brace. Yellow and black armor instantly covered his body. Cast off, change wasp, Kamen Rider Thebi, Rider form. On the day of your awakening, you manifested the Decade Driver. Not only could you truly transform into Kamen Rider Decade, you could also freely switch between every rider form from Showa, Heisei, and Reiwa. After transforming, Nangonglai's aura surge. He kicked off the ground and charged at you with a sonic rush. Without the Shen family backing you, you're nothing. Today, I'll smash that face of yours. His fist tore through the air toward your face. Yet you stood still, without even intending to transform. You shifted aside, caught Nangonglai's wrist, and drove your knee forward. Bang! Phoebe's armor caved in on the spot. Nangonglai groaned and doubled over. You gave him no chance to recover. A side kick sent him flying away. He crashed hard into a flower bed. A Tier 7 King's physical strength was already enough to overwhelm Tier 5 riders. Nangonglai wasn't even Tier 3. You looked at Nangonglai, unable to get up, with mockery in your voice. So this is you smashing my face. Is this all Thebi can do? You slowly walked to the edge of the muddy pit and looked down at Nangonglai struggling to stand. Your casual tone carried a bone-chilling edge. His armor was covered in mud, his visor cracked, and one antenna was broken. He no longer looked like a Kamen Rider at all. He looked like scrap metal dragged from a garbage heap. Impossible, you didn't even transform. How? You couldn't be bothered with his excuses. You grabbed his armor and punched him several times. Heavy impacts rang out one after another. Phoebe's armor dented and cracked under your bare fists. Nangonglai was beaten senseless. He couldn't even squeeze out a plea for mercy. At last, his vision went black. He fainted on the spot. Phoebe's armor dissolved into light. The watching students sucked in a breath. The whole place erupted. He beat a rider with his bare hands. He didn't even transform. Anyone who said the video was fake. Does your face hurt now? That strength is ridiculous. The Nangong family has been completely humiliated today. You bent down and picked up the fallen Thebi Zector. The moment your fingers touched it, a system notification rang in your mind. Detected. Thebi Zector. Tower extraction initiated. You raised an eyebrow. Decade's power quietly activated. While taking Phoebe's rider power, you cleanly severed Nangonglai's connection to the Zector. From now on, he could never transform again. Repaying grudges immediately had always been your rule, but you didn't take the Zector. You casually tossed it onto the unconscious Nangonglai. Openly stealing drivers was a major taboo of the Dragon Court. Taking Gatek before had already pushed the limit. There was no need to hand others evidence against you. You dusted off your hands, picked up your luggage, and turned to leave. You never looked at the man on the ground again. Not far away, Su Nan clutched Shen Qinghuan's arm, her eyes sparkling. That was so cool, Qinghuan. You know him, right? Give me his contact info. Ask him yourself, Shen Qinghuan retorted, but her gaze followed your back. Let's talk about your power sometime. Those words kept circling in her mind. Her heartbeat suddenly went out of rhythm. She hurriedly pinched herself. Get a grip. You're the aloof campus beauty. Longyan Academy's best dormitories were private 3-bedroom apartments. Gym equipment, a study, and every appliance were provided. Only S-rank freshmen received this treatment. After settling in, you immediately called your sister, Wang Yang. You brat, are you at school yet? Her voice came warmly through the phone. Just finished unpacking. The dorm is huge. Come check it out this weekend. You leaned back on the sofa. Your voice softened several degrees compared with outside. All your earlier coldness disappeared. I knew you'd be fine. Remember to eat on time. Don't only think about training. The ordinary family conversation continued until dark. Only after hanging up did you notice you were hungry. You threw on a jacket and went out to find food. The campus was especially quiet at night. Only streetlights stretched shadows along the tree-lined road. Just as you reach the food stall district, the night sky overhead suddenly split open with a crimson tear. Like a bleeding wound, it violently ripped through the darkness. You stopped walking, your gaze instantly turned cold. A rift, Lonyuan Academy had a complete anti-rift defense system. Its barriers were reinforced without a single gap. A rift couldn't possibly appear out of nowhere, unless someone inside the academy had tampered with the defense array. Before you could think further, monsters poured out of the rift. At the front came gray-green creatures wielding short blades, low-tier Gorongi. Most were only Tier 1 or Tier 2, but the three figures behind them had much stronger auras. A spider Gorongi, a cheetah Gorongi, both high Tier 4, and the thick-horned rhino Gorongi had reached Tier 5 expert level. A piercing alarm instantly echoed everywhere. The entire academy was under attack, but Lonyuan students were no easy prey. Even the weakest were B-rank riders. Some upperclassmen had even approached the Tier 6 threshold. Countless transformation lights flared up at once. Students charged straight at the monsters. The vast campus became a battlefield in moments. The target is over here, the spider Gorongi let out a sinister hiss. The strange language reached your ears, yet somehow turned into words you could understand. The target, they were here for you. You narrowed your eyes, ready to move. Two figures landed beside you. They were Shen Qinghuan and Sunan. Wang Xiaoming, what's going on? Shen Qinghuan looked at the monsters swarming the campus and asked in a grave voice. A monster invasion, on the first day of school too. Pretty lucky, huh? You spread your hands, without a hint of nervousness. Let's deal with them first. Sunan took a deep breath. A silver arkle belt appeared around her waist. Henshin, crimson light swept over her body. The Emidan activated, reconstructing her body at the atomic level. Kamen Rider Kuga, mighty form. On the other side, Shen Qinghuan summoned the Kabuto Zector. She locked it onto her belt. Henshin, cast off, change beetle. The heavy armor burst away. Kamen Rider Kabuto, rider form. Her crimson armor gleamed sharply in the night. Beast or raid ones are mine. The rhino Gorongi pounded its chest, arrogance blazing. It intended to fight both of them alone. You stepped forward with your hands in your pockets, blocking the two girls. The rhino is mine. You two handle the other pair. No problem, right? Fine, but transform first. We'll hold it back for you. Shen Qinghuan nodded immediately, but you shook your head. No need. I'll fight it like this. Shen Qinghuan's blue compound eyes locked onto you. Behind the mask, she was stunned. He actually planned to fight barehanded against that rhino Gorongi. That morning, you beat a Tier 3 Thebi barehanded. That was already absurd. But this rhino Gorongi before them made even her, a Tier 4 rider, feel suffocating pressure. Was this guy insane? Enough. Don't worry about me. Take care of yourselves. You lifted your chin slightly, signaling the two girls to face their own opponents. Then you crooked a finger at the rhino Gorongi. Arrogant human, you dare fight me without armor? The rhino Gorongi roared in the Gorongi language. Its huge body charged like a runaway truck, carrying a violent gale with it. Shen Qinghuan and Sunan instinctively moved to intervene, but their vision blurred. You had already appeared directly in front of the monster. Your speed was several times faster than theirs even while transformed. A massive fist came crashing down. You raised only one hand. Smack. Your 5 fingers caught it firmly. Your grip slowly tightened. The rhino Gorongi let out a shocked grunt. Its fist could crush reinforced steel, yet one human hand had locked it in place. It couldn't move at all. Agonizing pain spread through its knuckles. Can you understand human speech? You tilted your head, your tone casual. Doesn't matter. I understand everything you're saying. Didn't you just say you were going to smash me? You grinned. Is this all you've got? Maybe bring Daguba next time. He might actually be worth it. Before the words finished, you kicked the rhino Gorongi away. It flew more than 10 meters, like a cannonball, and crashed behind the spider and cheetah Gorongi. Dust filled the air. The battlefield fell silent. The spider and cheetah Gorongi froze and turned around. They stared at the rhino Gorongi rolling miserably on the ground, their minds completely blank. The rhino, the strongest elite among their group, had been kicked away by an untransformed human. The two monsters let out shrill cries. For a moment, they even forgot to attack. Under her helmet, Sunan gasped. She stared at the figure who wasn't even wearing a belt, feeling like she'd seen a ghost. He did that without transforming, against a monster of this level? What happens if he actually transforms? Shen Qinghuan's gaze was also fixed firmly on you. That morning, the image of you beating Nangang Lai overlapped with this scene. She finally understood. This boy who awakened at the same time as her couldn't be measured by ordinary standards at all. He was an absolute monster. On the day of your awakening, you manifested the Decade Driver. Not only could you truly transform into Kamen Rider Decade, you could also freely switch between every rider form from Showa, Heisei, And Reiwa, those two are yours, you spoke lazily, lifting your chin toward the two stunned monsters. I'll have some fun with this rhino. The two girls exchanged a glance through their masks and split up without a word. Shen Qinghwan intercepted the cheetah Gorongi, while Sunan charged the spider Gorongi. With your hands in your pockets, you strolled casually toward the rhino Gorongi. Tell me, who's your target this time? Your tone was lazy, but edged with sharpness. Don't tell me you're here for decade. You had encountered two monster attacks in a row. It was hard not to suspect that they were targeting Decade's newly awakened power. The rhino Gorongi rubbed its aching chest and stared at you for a long moment. A deep laugh rumbled from its throat. Interesting, a mere human body pushed me this far. A heavy sheen spread across its shell, and its aura grew stronger. If you can beat me until I can move, I'll tell you everything. You raised an eyebrow and laughed. So you only tell the truth after getting beaten. Fine. You rolled your wrist. Your smile was bright. Then you'd better hold out. Don't let me kill you by accident. The rhino Gorongi attacked first. Its thick horn thrust straight toward your chest. You slipped aside and drove a punch into its flank. Bang. Its supposedly indestructible shell caved in with a deep crater. The rhino Gorongi staggered, its eyes widening in disbelief. Its defense ranked among the best of its group, yet a human had broken through it with a bare fist. It had no time to think. It leapt up and smashed both fists toward your head. You raised a hand and casually deflected the attack, then drove an elbow under its jaw. A dull crack rang out. Its head snapped upward. It staggered back to steps. Impossible. Panic finally set in. Its proud defense was completely useless. It couldn't even touch you. Worse still, you had never transformed. Fear surfaced, only to be crushed by rage. Roaring, it spread its arms to crush you in a bear hug. But you ducked inside its reach first and drove your knee into its abdomen. Another dull impact. Its abdominal shell caved inward. The rhino Gorongi doubled over, hissing in pain. It couldn't understand. Its shell was tough enough that even Tier 5 riders struggled to damage it. Yet before you, it was as thin as paper. Why? You're not even wearing armor. Its voice finally trembled. You didn't answer. You simply punched and kicked at an unhurried pace. Your movements weren't fast. They were almost leisurely. Yet every strike landed precisely on weak points in its shell, within moments. Its once hard armor was battered beyond recognition. Every punch it threw earned a punch in return. Every kick earned an even harder kick. From beginning to end, it never touched you once. Every attempt only brought a harsher counterattack. Calling it a fight was generous. It was a one-sided beating. Not far away, students fighting the lesser monsters had already gone numb with shock. Their voices erupted. He still hasn't transformed. He's beating down an elite Gorongi barehanded. Wasn't that rhino supposed to be the strongest one? Why does it look like a punching bag? He isn't even wearing a belt. Who is this monster? I recognize him. That's this year's top scorer, Wang Xiaoming. The decade who killed a Tier 6 monster on Awakening Day. He also beat up the Nangong Air barehanded this morning. Fighting monsters barehanded is just insane. Amid the growing chatter, the rhino Gorongi finally couldn't hold on. It dropped heavily to its knees, gasping for breath, yet stubbornly refused to collapse. You stood over it and shook out your hand, still holding up. You said you'd talk once I beat you until you couldn't move. At the same time, the battles on the other side were nearing their end. At first, Shen Qinghwan struggled against the cheetah Gorongi's speed, but when it came to speed, Kabuto's system feared no one. She calmly activated the Zector. A cold mechanical voice rang out. Clock up, the world slowed to a crawl. Dust and sparks seemed frozen in midair. Shen Qinghwan became a streak of crimson light, darting around the unaware cheetah Gorongi. When time returned to normal, the cheetah was covered in more than a dozen bone-deep wounds. It dropped to its knees. Clock over. Shen Qinghwan stepped back and worked the Zector. 1, 2, 3, rider kick. Ring-shaped talking energy wrapped around her red and silver armor. Her right leg blazed with dazzling red light. She leapt into the air and kicked the cheetah Gorongi square in the chest. Boom! Flames erupted. The cheetah Gorongi was blown apart on the spot. Since awakening, this was the first monster she had killed herself. Her breathing quickened behind the mask. Within her blue compound eyes, a flash of excitement appeared without her even noticing. On the other side, Sunan had also pushed the spider Gorongi to the brink. Kuga mighty form's power surged through her body. Every punch carried tremendous force. The spider's webbing was torn apart again and again by her bare hands. After a heavy punch sent the spider Gorongi staggering, Sunan suddenly stepped back to gather power. Crimson sealing energy gathered around her lower leg. Even the air around it warped from the pressure. It's over. She leapt into the air. Mighty kick came crashing down. Bang. Her foot slammed into the spider's chest. The monster flew backward and crashed heavily into the open ground. Boom. It exploded. The blast was even more violent than Shen Qinghuan's. Rampaging ceiling energy blew the spider Gorongi apart from the inside out. Even the ground was torn up by the blast. This was Kuga's power. Every finishing move carried ceiling energy capable of piercing through everything. Its destructive power far exceeded ordinary riders. The two female riders finished almost simultaneously. Just as they were about to breathe a sigh of relief, the situation changed. A barrage of projectiles suddenly tore through the air from the dark. Sunan was already exhausted. She barely twisted a sigh, but a sharp cool still grazed her. She groaned and dropped to one knee. She couldn't stand again. Not far away, a monster covered in backward-pointing quills slowly emerged from the darkness. An elite porcupine Gorongi from the Go group. Its sheer pressure alone was worlds apart from the three monsters before it. Sunan, Shen Qinghuan shouted her name in alarm and forced herself forward to help. But after using Clock Up and her finisher back-to-back, she was already exhausted. The porcupine Gorongi didn't even look at her. The quills across his body suddenly trembled. Several cold flashes tore through the air and pierced her shoulder and thigh. They pinned her firmly to the ground. Kabuto's armor was useless against the quills. Agony swept through her body. Shen Qinghuan gritted her teeth without crying out, but she could no longer move. Only Sunan remained in the field, kneeling alone before the porcupine Gorongi. You saw all of it. You narrowed your eyes at the porcupine. Its aura was completely different from ordinary Gorongi. This was an elite of the Go group. Its strength was at least high tier 6 master level, only slightly weaker than the worm from before. You couldn't keep playing around. Your casual expression vanished. You looked down at the rhino Gorongi at your feet. Sorry, I don't have time to hear your objective anymore. I'll send you to hell first. Before the words finished, you kicked the rhino onto its back and stomped hard onto its chest. With a thunderous boom, the rhino famed for unmatched defense was crushed apart along with its shell. A single stomp in your human form had power comparable to a rider kick. As the dust settled, you walked out slowly. At some point, a magenta belt had appeared at your waist, the Decade Driver. Against a tier 6 master level monster, relying only on your bare body would be careless. Transforming was the safer option. But before you could move, the porcupine Gorongi had already reached Sunayan. Two huge quills glowed with fiery light, stabbing viciously toward her eyes. Sunayan's face went pale. She didn't even have the strength to dodge. At the critical moment, a figure suddenly appeared in front of her. With one palm, he forced the porcupine Gorongi back. Your eyes sharpened. This man was even faster than you. With your tier 7 king level strength, you could have arrived in time too. But this newcomer was clearly even faster. Only a handful of tier 7 experts existed in the entire academy. You had studied every high-level rider beforehand, yet you had no impression of this man. He was supposedly an ordinary teacher, not even noteworthy on the academy roster. Yet he had repelled a high tier 6 monster barehanded. Something was wrong. His power felt completely unfamiliar. You suddenly understood. Sunayan, get away from him. You exploded forward at full speed, but it was already too late. The instant Sunan completely lowered her guard, the teacher's gentle smile suddenly froze. Only icy ruthlessness remained. He struck without hesitation. His hand clamped down on Sunayan's ankle belt. Overwhelming power invaded her body. Rip. The spirit stone fused with her flesh, together with the belt, was forcibly ripped from her body. Her crimson mighty form collapsed instantly. Sunan returned to human form and staggered backward. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. He had just saved her. Why would he attack her now? 1,000 questions jammed in her throat. She couldn't say a word. Her vision went dark, and she collapsed. In the last moment before consciousness faded, she saw the man's figure twist unnaturally. His human skin peeled away, revealing gray-white stag beetle-like armor. A murderous aura filled the air. Gokudoruba, the strongest monster of the Go group, second only to Daguba. That was troublesome, but the objective is finally complete. He weighed the still-pulsing spirit stone in his hand. He spoke fluent human language. Kuga's spirit stone had already fused with your flesh. It couldn't be forcibly removed while you resisted, so I had to put on a little show and wait until you completely trusted me. Only after you lowered your guard could I remove it intact, so from beginning to end, it had all been a trap. Through Sunayan's fading vision, a figure rushed toward her from the distance. Was that Wang Xiaoming? What a shame. She still hadn't asked for his contact info. Her final thought broke apart. Sunan completely lost consciousness. Gokudoruba was clearly pleased with his prize. He turned to leave. At that exact moment, a cold voice suddenly rang out. Henshin. You threw the Decade card into the driver and slammed it shut with one hand. Kamen Rai. Decade. 9 rider projections appeared around you. They converged inward. Magenta armor covered your entire body. Kamen Rider Decade entered the battlefield. Did I say you could leave? On the day of your awakening, You manifested the Decade Driver. Not only could you truly transform into Kamen Rider Decade, you could also freely switch between every rider form from Showa, Heisei, and Reiwa. Gogodoruba weighed the object in his palm. The spirit stone still pulsed faintly. He was quite satisfied with his prize. His objective was complete. He turned to leave. At that moment, a cold voice suddenly rang out. Henshin, you threw the Decade card into the driver and slammed it shut with one hand. Kamen Rai Decade. 9 rider projections appeared around you, then converged inward. Magenta armor instantly covered your body. Kamen Rider Decade entered the battlefield. Did I say you could leave? You knew perfectly well that your opponent was extremely fast and overwhelmingly powerful, far stronger than you were now, even in human form, or transformed at full strength. A direct clash with Decade still wouldn't be enough to stop this high-stage Tier 7 king, a Gorongi general. But retreat had never been in your vocabulary. As Decade, you leapt into the air and kicked straight at Gogodoruba's head. The general merely looked up. The striking magenta armor and signature barcode-like faceplate were unmistakable. He casually raised one hand and caught your kick cleanly. The Gorongi general spoke calmly, with condescending pity. I know who you are. I didn't expect you to be here too. Unfortunately, you're still no match for me. At Tier 7 king level, even each minor stage was a vast gulf. From a single exchange, he had already judged the gap between you. He didn't take you seriously at all. A light laugh came from behind your mask. We won't know until we fight. Before the words finished, you pushed off with the leg he was holding, twisting your body in midair. Your other leg whipped out like a steel lash, striking the wrist holding the spirit stone. The Arkle and Amadam flew from his grip and hung in midair. The general winced and leapt to reclaim it, but you moved even faster. You drew the ride Bucher and switched it instantly into gun mode. You aimed at the general and repeatedly pulled the trigger. Dang, bang, bang. Magenta energy shots tore through the air. Gogodoruba was forced to retreat. You reached out and caught the falling Arkle. This doesn't belong to you. The instant it entered your hand, a system notification sounded. You stepped in front of the unconscious Sunayon, your cold gaze locked onto the general. I have 2 questions. How did someone at your level sneak into Longyuan Academy without anyone noticing? And after all this chaos, why haven't any of the Academy's experts shown up yet? The invasion had already lasted more than 10 minutes. At the speed of Tier 6 or Tier 7 experts, they could cross the entire academy in under 2 minutes. Yet not one had appeared. In all of Longyuan, perhaps only Dean Ziyuan could contend with the general before you. Gogodoruba rubbed his numb wrist. Instead of rushing, he relaxed. His target was still in your hand. He stared at the Amadam, his tone mocking. Your Dean Ziyuan is indeed quite capable, but someone even stronger is keeping him entertained. Stronger than a Dean Atik Tier 7 king, your grip on the Arkle tightened sharply. At the same time, deep within Longyuan Academy, inside an isolated space, Dean Ziyuan stared at the ethereal figure before him. Crimson flame surged around his body, forming a blazing 5-clawed dragon. Kamen Rider Ryuki, survive form. Behind him, Dragons circled and roared, evolved from Dragrider. This was the full power of a peak Tier 7 king. Yet even so, cold sweat covered his back. Before him stood a humanoid phantom, wrapped in suffocating pressure. The king of the Gorongi, the ultimate darkness, Daguba. A mere phantom was enough to completely pin down a peak Tier 7 Ryuki even in survive form. If his true body descended, then perhaps he would already be Tier 8 legendary or even Tier 9 mythic. Struggle. Daguba stood with his hands behind his back, utterly relaxed. His voice was full of amusement. Struggling is all you can do tonight. Ziyuan gritted his teeth. He knew that while he was trapped here, the students outside could only rely on themselves. How long can a mere phantom hold me back? He straightened. Then drew a final vent card from his belt. He had to escape as quickly as possible. Back on campus, Godoru extended a hand toward you. Hand over the Amadam now, and I can spare your life. I'm looking forward to fighting you once you've grown. But if you refuse to cooperate, you'll die here. The general's voice grew colder as power surged through him. Not far away, Shen Qinghuan remained pinned in place. She had witnessed everything. She stared at Sunayon lying in a pool of blood, barely noticing the agony in her own body. You bastard! What did you do to Sunayon? With a sickening sound of flesh tearing, Shen Qinghuan forcibly pulled herself off the quills pinning her down. Blood poured out beneath Kabuto's armor. Yet she forced herself back onto her feet. You raised an eyebrow. She looked delicate, but her will was fierce. You had once thought she was merely a pretty face. Now your opinion changed completely. She was a true warrior willing to risk her life for a friend, with a will as hard as steel. You glanced at the general watching from the side. He clearly didn't consider Shen Qinghuan a threat. In that case, you opened the ride Bucher and drew a completely new card. Emerald compound eyes, a driver worn diagonally across the torso. Kamen Rider's SSS from recovery. This was the newest rider to air before your transmigration. Its abilities were outrageous: complete restoration, control over restorative energy, free-form reconstruction, an invincible barrier, and overwhelming raw power. Right now, you possessed every main rider's base and derivative forms, including ZZTZ's from recovery. It could restore anything other than yourself to its optimal state. You flicked your fingers. The card slipped into the driver. Kamen Rai. ZZTZ. Emerald light spread across your magenta armor. The barcode-like faceplate rapidly reshaped. A brand new suit dominated by emerald green appeared. At your waist, the familiar magenta decade driver remained, yet somehow looked strangely harmonious with the form. Students clearing out the lesser monsters nearby caught sight of the transformation. They were stunned. Holy crap, that pink rider changed again. That's Wang Xiaoming, this year's top scorer. The news said his belt can turn him into other riders. So it was actually true. What rider is that green one? I've never seen it before. They kept fighting, but couldn't look away from the green light. Soon, someone noticed the wounded Shen King Huan. They gasped, that's the Shen family's Kabuto. She's that badly hurt and still standing. I'd have passed out already. As your transformation completed, a gentle aura spread from your body. You drew another finisher card and inserted it into the driver. Final attack Rai, recovery. A ring of soft green light spread from beneath your feet and gently wrapped around Shen King Huan. Her bleeding wounds closed visibly. Torn flesh knit itself back together. The bleeding stopped instantly. Even the damage to Kabuto's armor slowly restored itself to perfect condition. Behind the mask, Shen King Huan stared at her own body. The horrific pain that had nearly made her faint had vanished completely in an instant. With her tier for elite strength, even using the Academy's medical equipment, those wounds would normally take 2 weeks to a month to heal. Under that green light, it took only 3 seconds. The watching students felt their scalps go numb. The wounds just disappeared. Her flesh grew back by itself. What kind of insane recovery ability is that? Seriously wounded frontline riders could be saved with this. That's incredible. One distracted student was nearly ambushed by a grunt and hurriedly counterattacked, still muttering about that miraculous green light. The Gorongi general watched with interest too. I've long heard that decade can become countless riders. No wonder even they are wary of this power. You looked at him. You just watched me heal her. Ghidorah shrugged. One more small fry or one less makes no difference, more than her combat strength. I'm curious to see what tricks Decade's power can really pull off. There's another one right by your feet. Let's see whether you can save her too. He meant Sunayan. Lying beside you, her aura was as weak as a candle in the wind. Her life could disappear at any moment. If it reached that point, even Esprim recovery couldn't bring her back. Only Zoe's power could do that. The surrounding students also noticed the figure lying in blood. Their expressions changed. That's Sunayan. The Su family's S-rank Kuga. Wasn't she one of the most promising freshmen this year? How did she get hurt that badly? Her life force is almost gone. Most of the lesser monsters had already been cleared out, but nobody dared come closer. Even from dozens of meters away, they could feel the general's terrifying pressure. With only Tier 2 or Tier 3 strength, approaching him would be suicide. You crouched down and pushed the restoration tower to its limit. But when the green light entered Sunayan's body, it could only barely keep her alive. It couldn't fully heal her. It was as if her body were missing its most vital heart. Without that core, her life couldn't restart. You looked at the Arkle in your hand. Is this it? You quickly fast and the Arkle around Sunayan's waist and activated the restoration power again. Ghidorah's expression finally changed. He muttered, impossible. Once the spirit stone is removed from its host, death is certain. Putting it back shouldn't change anything. But before he even finished speaking, a miracle occurred. The Arkle slowly fused back into Sunayan's body. Her torn wounds gradually closed. Color slowly returned to her pale face. Her tightly furrowed brow relaxed, and her breathing became steady and deep. She still hadn't awakened, but the life that had already stepped through death's door had been forcibly pulled back by you. Only dry blood remained around her waist. Not a single wound was left. The Arkle had returned to its rightful owner. Sunayan's vital signs stabilized immediately. She had truly returned from the brink of death. Several students in the distance froze on the spot. What the hell did we just see? She was practically dead just now. Wang Xiaoming reached out and brought her back. That's not healing, that's dragging someone back from the King of Hell. Seeing this, Ghidorah's face darkened completely. He had been certain that once the spirit stone was removed, the host's life core would be destroyed and her rider seed shattered. Even reinstalling the spirit stone shouldn't have saved her. That was why he had allowed you to try. He never expected you not only to save Sunan, but also restore the spirit stone to her body. A once-in-a-lifetime chance to extract it was gone. Then I'll have to take Kuga's awakener back instead. Gadoru's eyes turned cold. His identity had already been exposed. He couldn't return empty-handed. You slowly stood up. Your gaze beneath the mask swept over the horn silhouette. Your voice was cold as ice. You think Lan Yuan is your backyard? You come whenever you want, and leave whenever you want.